Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Naila Anasiha. I will retell a journal entitled Global Economy Management, Future Technologies Prospect. Abstract. On the one hand, globalization helps in further democratization, deepen interdependence of countries and people, and expand the technical and information capability of humankind. On the other hand, one can but notice that in many regions of the world trade, challenges and risks directly relate to globalization outweigh all of its advantages. The unstable state of the world economy in the post-crisis period once again attract the attention of representatives of various scientific schools to the problem of managing global economic process. Introduction. Global governance, as well as political management, is influenced by objective and subjective factors, a variety of organs, and spontaneous action. However, the consequence of the impact of action or factor are much less predictable than the impact of similar action and factor on political governance in a particular country. Thus, we understand the object of the world economy as the totality of individual countries participating in the division of labor, and relate to the system of international economic relations. The concrete object of studying the world economy are general laws governing the development of the world economy, globalization process, national economy in terms of their participation in the international division of labor, transnational structure, their production and marketing activity, monetary, financial, and budgetary resources of national government allocated to international financial economic activity. Both monetary and financial systems are of international financial institutions, international economic organization, international economic legislation, goods and services produced by the real sector of the global market. It is possible to single out both positive and negative sides of the world economy. The positive consequences of globalization process include globalization contributes to deeper specialization and the international division of labor. An important advance of globalization process in economy of scale, possibly leading to cost cutting and lower price, and hence to sustainable economic growth. The benefit of globalization also linked to the benefit free trade on mutually beneficial basis, the seven all parties. Strengthening competition, globalization stimulates further development of new technologies and their distribution among countries. The result of globalization, as many experts hope, so the global increase in welfare in the world. Literature review. The failure of all attempts to achieve world domination is rooted not at the level of technological development. It follows from the stubborn lack of people to live under the yoke of any consequent support of such governance without a global government. Refer to globalization as a powerful force transforming the world, responsible for the evolution of society and economies, for changing and form of government and the entire world order. Scientists sharing this view do not predict the creation of the single world community, community, not to mention a single unfelt word tag. Kosolapov describe it allow us to state that not the word government, but the totality of interstate and supranational, that is the pressure, the pluralism of national sovereigns, act as a prototype of global governance. Theo, the, the theoretical basis of research of compares of the work of leading domestic and foreign scientists in the field of global management of the economy, international monetary and credit relations, and economic theory. When working on the research, such general scientific method as accession from the abstract to the concrete, from the particular to the general, analysis and scientist, classification, scientific abstraction were used. Elements of the empirical study have been performed using the method of grouping, comparison, and generalization employing the tool of mathematical, statistics, and expert approach. Information base of the work is made up of the data United Nations Organization, analytical material of research institution, and professional association, expert assessment and calculation of scientific and practical worker, reporting documentation of the LAR, PNC, periodic press material and internet source. Discussion. State management mechanisms are linked to the activity of national government, the conclusion of international arrangement, and decision-making at the level of international organizations. Their partnership can bring global governance to a qualitatively new level. At the same time, the exciting global infrastructure of international interaction is very mobile and developed with asymmetrically. All this affect the nature of the mechanism for regulating world economic relations, among which there are alternative mechanisms for regulating similar international relations and alternative institutions within the framework of already established regulatory instruments. The current economic crisis undoubtedly provides significant material from the intensification of scientific research in the sort of implementation of which rethinking of the existing conceptual apparatus and the conceptual foundation of the theory of regulation of the global economy being created, as well as the country of a new theory of global process management. Today, we speak of the diversity of views and approaches among the representatives of various scientific schools in the regard of the nature of international regulation of world economic relations. Among them, we can single out normative, structural, functional, federalist, regional, and globalist approach, the provision of which, in one form or another, form the basis of the activities of modern international economic organization. The development of global process and a series of local, regional, and global crises have corrected the perception of the effectiveness of the exciting governance model and actual theoretical studies in the field of international regulation of the global economy. Representatives of various schools and scientific movements are now trying to the proposed comprehensive approach to the model of global governance, taking into account the development of alternative theory. The current idea about the possible organization of global governance of world economy are in fact reduced to finding the most effective proportion of participation of state, international and non-state structure and institution of the already exciting model of global governance. Stakeholder in the global system of economic regulation. In a broad sense, the stakeholders are actors involved in the process of establishing world economic rules. To understand the role of such stakeholders in economic regulation in the last 2 decades, two factors must be mentioned: globalization and democratization. Globalization has led to increased interconnection in the world economy, and therefore has called for the creation of universal norms. Europe, as well as the process of liberalization of China and other Asian economies and societies. But this process influenced the change in the rules of global economic governance. The system of long-term global economic management is formed, on the one hand, under the influence of market, and on the other, democracy. Thus, the constant pressure of investors reflects in the growth of stock indices and other financial indicators, of counterbalanced by the slow and complex decision-making process carried out by parliament and government through multilateral organizations and meetings. There is a big difference between the speed of investor exposure and the speed of collective action in economic management, especially in times of crisis. This can be seen in the G20 activity as well as other examples of the process that unfold at the regional Europe level during the financial crisis. The norm-setting process usually goes in 4 stages: signaling, in initiation, formation, decision-making. At the stage of signaling, a wide range of stakeholders indicate that their problem and carefully analyze an exciting international norm or the adaptation of the bad theory. Among these problems are the following: change in the capital and circumvents in various sectors of the economy of boundaries of sovereignty. The mood and feeling of society include non-profit organizations and the media. Usually, the circle of topic is very wide. Therefore, at the next step, the stakeholder decide on the issue to be given priority. At the stage of initiation, the stakeholder identification the problem and in order to promote collective action demonstrate its international consequence. At this stage, the circle of stakeholders is great, from private business, lobby, media, non-governmental organizations to academic community and the public sector. At the stage of formation, the number of stakeholders is reduced. International organizations, based on their own norms, develop draft new norms, private, industrial, or public sector, or their combination. Provide finance. Below we give example for each option. At the decision-making stage, the number of stakeholders is limited to the competent authority that make the decision. Normative regulations are approved solely by state bodies. Conversation, a new aspect of peacekeeping. The global confrontation has been replaced by the intensification and increase in the number of various kinds of local conflict over territorial, ethnic, religion difference that turn into regional or global conflict with the corresponding involvement of new actors. the increased number of local conflicts and thus increase of the number of military recruits. According to SIPRI calculation, the May 1990s, there were about 50 conflicts where military operations were conducted and good leadership. Finally, the problem of international terrorism potentially provoking various conflicts, including nuclear blackmail and a global nuclear conflict, is also very dangerous. Conclusion: the issue of global economic management, as well as human problems, have extended since the birth of civilization and will continue to exist. This is due to the increased interaction of national economy into a single global economic space, as exponential growth in the economy, population, and energy consumption, and an increased burden on the environment. Obviously, the solution of global problem is only possible as a complex test. Each of the global problem, demographic, environmental, energy, socio-political, and finally a complex of economic problem, is closely related to the other affecting all spheres of human activity. The need for further interaction of the world communication is become increasingly undesirable. In addition to the structural relationship, global problems are really global. That means that their solution is possible only the scale of the world war and with the participation of all nations without exception. Communication as the actual economic problem. They not only are consequent of global human problem, but also have a specific nature. Anything that shakes the equilibrium state of the component of a given system is precisely as a problem. The system is nevertheless open and dynamic. The structure of the economy money state is changing. The national institutions are being strengthened. Direction is growing. Society are open. Ideology and military confrontation is diminishing. Global problems will become acute, forcing the world communication and the world economy to change, to find a new state of equilibrium of the system. Terima kasih.